introduce next. His name is Dr. Jimmy Gutman. Dr. Gutman is a Montrealer. He's born and raised in Montreal, Canada. However, he was educated both in the United States at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, as well, of course, at McGill University up in Montreal. And there you see several of the books. And I say several because he's written a number of books on this subject of glutathione. And Dr. Gutman is actually considered, not just by us at Immunotec, obviously we love him, he's our friend, we know him, great man, but by the medical community, he is considered to be the world's leading expert on glutathione. So who better than Dr. Gutman to share with you all from the medical profession, and even if you're not in the medical profession, about glutathione and about its role with Immunocal. So I want to turn the call over now to my very good friend for the last 24 years. And as I said, a man who knows more about this subject than anybody on the face of the planet. And that's my good friend, Dr. Jimmy Gutman. Jimmy, how are you today?
Excellent. Thank you, John. Great introduction and great story. I always love hearing about Dr. Buno. An inspiration to any researcher. So I'll go straight into the topic if I can. Just going to try and get the technology going here. Give me one moment and we'll get going. And we're going to be talking about our flagship product, of course, Immunocal. But we're going to look at, there's my face again. Just for anybody who's interested afterwards, a lot of interesting stuff on glutathione that you could find at the websites below. But we're going to be looking a little bit closer at the history of Immunotec, and John gave you a brief introduction. But let's delve in a little, because I know that there are a lot of health professionals here. And what the health professionals absolutely need to know is there research? Because the only way that you could be comfortable about a product that you're going to take yourself or suggest that one of your patients take is to know that there is research, and not just research, but research done in human beings. Now, this slide I'm showing you is actually a few months old, and the interesting thing, there are several interesting things about this slide. You'll see that we do have quite a few human studies, certainly a lot of laboratory studies and animal studies and theoretical papers, to a total of 63 articles. This slide, every time I show it, is outdated, because we continue to do research. And I think by the end of this year, 2020, we're going to have over 70 published articles on our flagship product called Immunocal. Now, of course, we've spent over 40 years doing research on this. We've published in the best journals that you could think of, peer-reviewed journals. We have dozens and dozens of patents on the Immunocal. But the problem is that in United States and the country I live in, Canada, there are very severe restrictions about what you can say about a natural product. And even though we have research in oncology, and we have research in HIV, and we have research in all kinds of immune problems and other health issues, we cannot make medical claims directly because we are not listed as a drug. However, we do show up in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, just like a drug. But again, the FDA and places like that are very, very protective of companies who make medical statements about non-drugs. So what we can do is, just for the general public, make statements like healthier, smarter, stronger. But even those, I think we need to justify those. So let me take you back to our original genius. John mentioned his name earlier before, Dr. Gustavo Bunos. Now, Dr. Bunos was a doctor who came from Italy, and he was a surgeon. Here in this slide, for those of you who have visuals, you could see him there in the operating room. And he came to the United States to find his fame and fortune. Now, unfortunately, when he arrived to the United States, he could not get a medical license. There's a certain chauvinism among American doctors. If you're a foreign graduate, you probably aren't good enough. And so Bunos decided he was going to go into research. And he did some spectacular work. One day, however, he got a letter in the mail, and the letter was from the American government saying, "Dear Dr. Bunos, your visa is up. You have to leave the United States." And there was a lot of pushback. There was even some people who started a bill in Congress trying to keep Dr. Bunos in the United States. The bill didn't pass, and he was kicked out of the United States. And to me, that was a great thing. And I say it was a great thing because he actually moved to Montreal, Canada, which is my hometown. Research at McGill. Now he, being a surgeon, asked a very, very basic question that was not answered at the time. Why is it that if you take the same kind of a patient, same sex, same age, same pathology, same surgery, you do your surgery on them, and some people end up being discharged in 5 days and other people end up in the intensive care unit for weeks and weeks? What is the difference? What causes this difference? I'm sure there are several factors, but is there one basic variable that needs to be examined? And even a kid could answer that. Well, maybe it was the type of diet they had. So back then, remember, we're looking at 40 years of research. We didn't know too much about the immune system, but Dr. Bunos figured it had to do something with the immune system because a lot of the complications either turned out to be inflammatory problems or infectious complications. So knowing that it was the immune system, here's a great chart from the 1960s. Clearly, it was going to be a protein that had something to do with helping the immune system. So Dr. Bunos started collecting all kinds of proteins, animal proteins and plant proteins and soy and algae, you name it, and started putting it into his experiments, looking for immune responsiveness. Now, Dr. Bunos, remember, he's a surgeon. He's not an immunologist. And in those years, the early 70s, immunology as a discipline, as a specialty, didn't even exist yet. So we teamed him up with an up and coming rising star at McGill University, who was one of the first PhDs in studying the immune system by the name of Dr. Patricia Kongshaven. And here we see a picture of Dr. Kongshaven, a beautiful, bright superstar at McGill University there in her 1920s. And they, as a team, Bunos had the ideas and Patricia had the skill in the immune system. I call Dr. Kongshaven the great grandmother of immunology. Now, why would I make a statement like that? Because she wrote the first chapter in the first book of clinical immunology that was widespread in the medical community. So she is the foremost female pioneer in immunology. That's our Dr. Patricia Kongshaven. So they're doing all this work using different proteins and amino acids on animals. One day, this package shows up on Dr. Bunos's desk. And Bunos opens up this box, and inside the box is this fine white powder. And attached to the box is a note, "Dear Dr. Bunos, We understand that you're studying protein biochemistry. This is a protein that we have. It's a byproduct of one of our industries here in Europe. We have no use for it. We've been dumping it in the fields, been dumping it in the rivers, and the government told us to stop because both the fields and the rivers were overgrowing. So maybe you can figure out what to do with this protein. Bunos is saying, isn't that interesting? And he's playing with this white powder that showed up in the mail in the 1970s. Remember, that's a little bit strange. Figures, okay, it's from Europe. It's not from Colombia. I might as well put it in my experiments. And so we started feeding our laboratory animals this protein and challenging them as well. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, we discovered there's a group of animals that are living between 30 and 50% longer. And these animals were the ones that were eating this white protein powder. So all of a sudden, this is very exciting, and we started turning some heads at McGill, but we were able to get more research funding, which of course is the key when you're a researcher. And this was very, very interesting. Still in animals, though. Experiments stopped working. It was working for about 2 or 3 years. One day they just stopped working, and Dr. Bunos required hip surgery. And so he's depressed about the fact that his research wasn't working anymore, and he's lying in bed at home. And of course, what do you do when you lie in bed at home? You watch TV. And Dr. Bunos is watching this cooking program, and the chef is complaining that the cheese from Europe no longer tasted as good as it used to. And the reason was because in those European countries at the time, they had a scare about infectious disease and dairy industry. So they decided to increase the temperature of pasteurization by a few degrees. And a light went on over Dr. Bunos's head and said, what they've probably done, this white protein powder was a byproduct of the dairy industry. And by heating it, you were destroying the proteins, you were denaturing the proteins, so they lost their biological activity. So Dr. Bunos and his team and Dr. Kongshaven and other people went out and had a North American dairy provide them with the same type of protein powder according to their specifications. And sure enough, the experiment started to work. So we knew that this white protein powder that came from the dairy industry was helping improve the lifespan and the resistance to disease of animals, but we didn't know why. One day, sitting around the coffee room in the research department, Dr. Bunos was discussing this with another a colleague, Jerry Baptiste, who went on to be the top oncologist, the leader of cancer research at McGill University, telling them about this. And Dr. Baptiste was looking at this new molecule and said, Gus, maybe this white protein powder is raising a molecule called glutathione. And by raising glutathione, you've done something to make these animals more resistant. Just a chance encounter over a lousy cup of coffee. They chased it down, and as it turns out, that in fact was the case. And here I'm showing a slide of the original team at Montreal General Hospital that did the work. That they discovered that Immunotec, this white protein powder, raised glutathione. So what is glutathione? I know a lot of you do know, but many of you don't know. Glutathione is this little molecule that lives in all of our cells. It has a tremendous amount of benefits. It's even though a lot of people have not heard about it, certainly if you go to PubMed or any other source of research articles, there's over 150,000 articles written on glutathione and your health. And this is a huge amount of information. In fact, it's more articles on glutathione than on vitamin C, if you can believe that. So what does glutathione do? Well, it does a lot of things. We could talk about 40 or 50 things it does inside of your cell. But remember this word, IDEA, idea. If you remember the word idea, glutathione, what a great idea, you can remember the most important roles, the 4 most important roles that glutathione plays in your body. I stands for the immune system. D stands for detoxification. E stands for energy. And A stands for antioxidant. When we look at the immune system, well, glutathione is literally food or fuel for the immune system. People who are deficient in glutathione are going to have a weak immune system. And the classic example is HIV or AIDS. These patients, by definition, are glutathione deficient and they're immunocompromised. And when we look at any major infection, glutathione levels drop. D stands for detoxification. Those of you who are toxicologists or study liver hepatologists, you know about glutathione because next to water, I tell people next to water, glutathione is the most important substance for detoxification. Everything from cigarettes, heavy metals, on and on and on. These things depend on glutathione for their detoxification. E stands for energy. We could talk about the whole body level down to a biochemical level, down to a cellular level. Just to give you an example, our mitochondria, our little batteries that work inside of our cells to give us our energy, they are entirely dependent on glutathione to soak up the free radical damage, the oxy radical pollution, so to speak, from energy production done by glutathione. If glutathione levels drop, our mitochondria function slow down. The mitochondria literally heat up and we have less energy. Finally, A, antioxidant. If you read about glutathione, you'll hear many, many scientists describing glutathione as the body's master antioxidant. Why would you use a term like master antioxidant? Well, get this. We know somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 different antioxidants, everything from vitamin C and vitamin E and many other fancy antioxidants. None of these antioxidants can work without the presence of glutathione. Glutathione recycles them, glutathione recharges them. And unlike these other antioxidants that need to be obtained from our food stuff, glutathione is manufactured by the body. It's your most important endogenous antioxidant. So with the idea in hand, then you could start to appreciate what it does. And our team at McGill, because we knew that it raised glutathione, we could start to look at specific areas. So let's look at our product Immunocal, our flagship product. It's very easy to explain. Our cells are little machines that make glutathione. They just need some precursors. They need 3 specific amino acids. 2 of them, glycine and glutamate, are very easy to get from our diet. But the one that's hard to get from our diet is cysteine. And specifically, it needs to be cysteine in a very special form called bonded cysteine or cystine. So if the cell has these building blocks, it accepts them readily and the cell starts to make glutathione. So it's not a mystery, but the trick here is to find a good source of bonded cysteine, which is the limiting factor for your cell to be able to make glutathione. And that's how the Immunocal works. It supplies cysteine in a bonded form, part of a larger protein, so that the cysteine is protected from oxidation. and is absorbable, pass through your gastrointestinal tract, through your blood to your cells, so your cells can make glutathione. Okay, so it's easy to explain. There are no mysteries, there's no black boxes, there's no magic. It can be detailed step by step biochemically. So Immunocal raises glutathione. So now we started looking at specific diseases, for example, HIV. Now we, to this point, had only done animal studies. Now animal studies are limited. 95% of good results in animal studies, 95% of them do not translate into successful human studies. So you need to do human studies. So at the time, we're in the early 80s by now, AIDS rose its ugly head. And in the 1980s, if you had AIDS, it was a death sentence. Fortunately, these days, we have medications that you can have a relatively normal life with AIDS. Back then, if you had AIDS, it was a kiss of death. And when you do a human study, and I know that many of the doctors and many of the researchers understand this, you don't just go ahead and decide to do a study. You got to go through ethical boards and research review boards, and you have to go through the government. And so the way we got through was these boards of ethics were saying, well, these AIDS patients, they're going to die anyways. Go ahead and play with your white protein powder. Was just remarkable. Lowering viral counts, increasing CD4 lymphocyte counts, putting muscle mass back on these patients, and a whole series of studies. And we end up being, the studies were so great, we ended up being funded by the Canadian government. People in Europe started looking at us. I'm showing a slide here. For those of you who are in your car, you can't see it. One of them is Mark Weinberg. He was the president of the International AIDS Research Council for 3 terms. He started writing on Immunocal and AIDS. And another picture, John Soliter mentioned his name before, Dr. Luc Montagnier, who was the Nobel Prize winner in medicine, who discovered the AIDS virus. He wrote in a book that he published, there was a whole chapter just on Immunocal. So we were getting international rave reviews, and finally, I guess you could start to call our team famous and notorious, and the papers just kept on coming, not just in infectious disease like AIDS. We did hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. We did bacterial infections. We did cardiac studies, pulmonary studies, all kinds of health problems. And eventually, with this body of work, we were able to get the Canadian government to allow us to make a medical claim that Immunocal helps the immune system. Now, this doesn't sound like much, but for a natural product to have a government authorize saying that this product improves immune function is huge. You don't even have that kind of thing in the United States yet either, but it is coming. So we can now safely say Immunocal makes you healthier. And it's based on just dozens and dozens of spectacular research, which we will be happy to make available to you later. Now, so we're looking at all these sick people, and it seemed like we were missing something. We wanted to know what the effect was of this glutathione precursor protein on healthy people. So we looked at the healthiest people possible. We looked at athletes. One of these studies is one of our earlier studies. We took a bunch of university athletes. At the beginning of the summer, we put half of them on the Immunocal and half of them on a placebo, had them do the same exercise program for the whole summer, bring them back at the end of the summer, and test them for muscle strength and endurance. And we demonstrated an increase of between 10 and 15% increase in muscle strength. What does that mean? that in an Olympic Games, the difference between first place and sixth place in most events is less than 1%. So a 13% increase was crazy. And we just kept on getting calls from sports organizations and professional clubs and the NBA and the NHL and soccer leagues and football leagues and Olympic teams. And right now, we have many Canadian Olympic athletes, American Olympic athletes, the British team, the Polish team, um, taking the Immunocal because of this phenomenon of raising muscle strength and endurance. A little while later, we did a similar study, not in healthy young athletes, but we did it in geriatrics. So we took healthy geriatrics patients, and we showed the same thing, a 10% increase in muscle strength. This means the difference between being in bed and being in a wheelchair, between being in a wheelchair and a walker, between a walker and a cane, between a cane and playing with your grandkids. 10% is huge in the geriatric population. So then with that research, we were able to get the Canadian government to approve a muscle performance claim. Again, this is absolutely unique to a natural product protein, Immunocal. I'm showing you a picture here of one of my favorite Olympic teams. This is a Canadian rowing team from the London Olympics. And the reason why this is my favorite team, and we have lots and lots of teams, the reason why this is my favorite team is because this was the oldest team in the Olympics, and they got the silver medal, not the gold, they got the silver, but they were the oldest team, and they were on to be there just for fun, and they won silver because they were raising their glutathione levels. So we're quite comfortable to say stronger. The next area that we're looking at is the brain. I did a pilot study in autism. We've got another large study in autism. We've done studies in neurodegenerative diseases and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. We're doing studies in head trauma. We're doing studies in cognitive impairment. We're at some of the best universities across North America doing brain research with this very unique powder. And so it would be lovely for everybody to just be able to pull up these articles to say, these are the medical possibilities, these are clinical possibilities, but because we're a natural product, we have to stick with the claims, healthier, smarter, and stronger. Now understand, we even have patents for Immunocal as a chemotherapeutic agent, meaning Immunocal identified as chemotherapy, but we can't use that to market. But again, I want you to look at these patents. I want you to look at these studies, and it'll be a very easy decision for you to make. So really, I don't think you'll ever find a natural product, especially one in network marketing, that has this degree of scientific credibility. No one comes close, and that's one of the reasons why I'm extremely proud to have this very productive career as a consultant to Immunotec, and I will promise you that this research will continue for years. So thank you very much. I'm going to take just a second to plug my own book on glutathione. It's available at glutathione.org. It's in Spanish, French, or English, and it's really everything you need to know about glutathione and all the clinical indications and all the pathologies that it covers. So it might be a fun read for you medical people out there. So I'm going to pass it back to you. Thank you very much.
This is excellent. We are so thankful of you. Of course, very impressed with all that you have shared with us. And right now, I will definitely like to see if there. I have one question here, and one is asking and stating multiple sclerosis needs to have a low immune system. Have you made research on this issue. I have a niece with this condition, and we would like to know if she can take Immunocol.
You see,
This is a particular. She's
I
not a
love,
doctor.
I love this question. I love this
Okay.
question. This is a thinking person's question. If
Okay.
raising glutathione improves immune function, can it not backfire in an autoimmune disease? You would think that it could. This is a wonderful question. And the answer is not in this case, no. Let's look at multiple sclerosis. What's going on in multiple sclerosis is that your nerves are kind of like an electrical wire. An electrical wire has this plastic coating so the nerve doesn't short out. Our nerves, of course, don't have plastic coatings, but they have a fatty coating called myelin. And in MS, this myelin gets broken down and our nerves start to short out. And it's a kind of a very basic explanation. The thing that's breaking down the myelin sheath is oxidative stress. It's oxidation. And glutathione is the major antioxidant that stops the destruction of the myelin sheath. And I've written a whole chapter on glutathione and MS. And again, whoever's asking that question just needs to ask somebody in the company to try to get them a copy of that chapter, or better still, a book, and you can read all about glutathione and MS. So this is a great question. Will raising glutathione adversely affect an autoimmune disease? In my 25 years of research, I have never seen this happen. In fact, more often than not, I see improvement.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, next question. This is a doctor she's in the Dominican Republic right now. She is saying, greetings. Yesterday, I was diagnosed with Barrett syndrome, and she's a student. She's studying medicine in Dominican Republic. I was diagnosed with Barrett syndrome and LA-D esophagitis. I want to take Immunotec. What products can I start with to help me improve my gastric system? Or like the amount of product?
Well, you see, the Immunocal product comes. It's a powder, and it's a very, very sensitive powder. It's very easy to break down either by heat or by exposure to humidity. So it's put in this high-tech pouch. Each pouch has 10 grams. For a young, healthy person, the maintenance dose is 10 grams a day, or one pouch. In the studies that we've done on seriously ill people, we generally use 3 or 4 pouches, 30 or 40 grams. For everybody else, for example, myself, I'm healthy, but I'm sure not young. You can tell by looking at my screen. I will take at least 2 pouches a day. For this young person, because she is health challenged, and I'm saying young, I'm assuming she's young because she's a medical student, she'd be taking at least 20 grams a day.
Okay.
2 pouches.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Next one. Can you speak a bit on Immunocol and children with autism?
Yeah. I started getting this question probably 15 or 20 years ago. Dr. Gutman, does raising glutathione will it help autism? And my answer was, I don't know. And then people would come to me after a lecture and say, Jimmy, I've got a son, a daughter, a cousin, a nephew who's taken the Immunocal and with autism, and they've gotten better. And so I started hearing that again and again. So when the next time I get asked a question on stage, Dr. Gutman, will raising glutathione or taking Immunocal help autism? I still have to say I don't know, because I can't answer on the basis of testimonials or anecdotal evidence. I could only answer on the basis of research. In the early 2000s, a paper came out from the University of Arkansas, where this researcher, Jill James, did blood tests on a whole bunch of autistic kids. For some reason, she looked at glutathione levels and found that 80% of the autistic kids were deficient in glutathione. And so
Wow.
I read this and I flipped out because it explains so many things. Why is it that environmental toxins make autistic kids worse? Why is it that they have food intolerance, many intolerances? Why is it that they're immunocompromised? Why do they have gastrointestinal problems? Why was there such a huge outcry about vaccinations? So I looked at the vaccinations, and I don't want to be labeled as a pro-vax, anti-vax. It depends on the vaccine. But one of the theories is that it's not so much the vaccination, but it was a preservative used in vaccinations called thimerosal. What is thimerosal? Thimerosal is 40% mercury. So when you load up an infant with a lot of mercury, you're going to get mercury as one of the strongest neurotoxins we know of. What is a substance that detoxifies mercury? Glutathione. So it all started falling together. So I decided to do a pilot study. I did a pilot study at in Texas, and pilot study went well, and that rolled over into a much larger study at Nova Southern in Florida, at one of the largest autistic research centers. And we will be publishing these results shortly. We ran into a little bit of trouble with the journal we want to publish in, but wait till you see these results. I have to tell you, raising glutathione in autism is absolutely essential. Go online and
Right.
look it up. This is something you need to do.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, I think we have one more, and this is regarding for those cancer patients currently on immunotherapy. Is there any contraindication on Immunocall, or is it okay? There's a therapy called immunotherapy apparently,
Yeah.
and so could they use it?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know because there are many different types of immunotherapy, and this is such a new field. We don't have enough experience in it. And I promise you all, if I don't know, I don't know. I'm never going to make something up. It has to be based on research. So immunotherapy, the best thing to do is show the idea to the treating physician. It'll be easy to find because I'm assuming well, if it's in Puerto Rico or in the United States, the doctor just needs to look at the PDR, physician's desk reference, look up Immunocal,
Right.
and you'll see the indications, contraindications, clinical pharmacology. So the doctor will have to be involved in that decision.
Okay. All right. And what's the best way to, a question is, how do we mega dose Immunocall for more acute cases? Is that?
Yeah, that won't work.
Okay.
The beauty about using the Immunocal to raise glutathione. See, if you were injecting glutathione, you could just keep on injecting and get this super normal levels of glutathione, which may backfire, and the body isn't meant to be exposed to that. What happens when you take Immunocal? Your cells make its own glutathione. Immunocal is not glutathione. It's the building blocks for your cells to make glutathione. And your cells have this inherent intelligence whereby it will make its optimal amount of glutathione and no more. You can't force a cell to make more than its optimal amount of glutathione. So there's this homeostatic mechanism in place that liberates you from any toxicity. But we have people taking 50 or 60 grams of Immunocal. It's kind of diminishing returns. There are some people that are really glutathione deficient, so you can do that. But to take huge doses, it's just you're gonna be spending money that you don't need to spend because your body will only be able to make its optimal amount of glutathione, which is what we're designed to do. Like you could find intravenous glutathione, you can get mega doses that way. It's not the way we work. Let's listen to Mother Nature here.
Great. Okay, and negative. Okay, regarding the speaking about those dosages and regarding how many envelopes someone should use, who do you suggest we should go about? Like
Again,
there's some people saying start with four of the Immunocol Classic, and then the biggest, or if you may speak about the glutathione, the Immunocol Platinum.
yes. There's a lot of people on the call, they know Immunocal, and a lot of people that they don't know Immunocal. So we tried to cover the basics. But just to give you a little bit more on the Immunocal, there are right now two kinds of Immunocal: a regular Immunocal and something called Immunocal Platinum, which is the Immunocal, which has two additional things added to it. One is something called CMP, cytokine modulating peptides. That's a mouthful, but really what it is, it's a specific peptide, a specific small protein that brings down inflammation. We have signaling molecules in our body called cytokines. Many of them are inflammatory and can cause damage. So these are little proteins that lower the inflammation so that you don't get the damage and the pain. And something else called RMF, and what the RMF is there for is to lower the acidity levels in your body. And because when you're high acid body, you lose calcium, you lose magnesium in the cell and in the tissues. It's also important for athletes. The soreness that athletes feel after a workout is lactic acidosis, so you can get some improvement by lowering acidosis. So it's multifunctional, and again, it's very easy to find out these answers if you go online and go to one of the Immunocal Immunotec sites. There's some excellent FAQs that will explain that.
Yes, great. But this was great. We have one last last question. We have a colleague underwent surgery on the retina for glaucoma a year ago. Currently, she cannot see anything through that eye. I have heard testimonials with this types of retinopathies. Patients who can actually see a little after Immunotec, is it possible?
Is it possible?
After Immunocol.
Yeah, sure. So, again, the answers for me, a lot of people like using testimonials. They're exciting and they touch your heart, and you can relate to them because it's somebody you know, or you can feel their energy. For me as a physician, I need to stick with the research. And there's a ton of research on different eye problems, including glaucoma, including different types of retinitis. And again, in my book, there's a whole chapter on the eye and glutathione. And so the answers, and especially for the doctors, you know this, the answers lie in the research, and that's what you have to hang your hat on. And there's a lot of hooks to hang your hat on.
Excellent. Well, I think this is that was the last question we have here. And
that was great fun.
Again, listen, we are again humble and honored to have had the opportunity to have you with all of us and all these, and they're just texting, saying, everybody's texting here, saying thank you.
My pleasure.
It's been an honor. And looking forward, many of them are new and looking forward to try the product and learn even more and further. Looking forward to get the hands on your book. Some of them are saying that because they didn't have it. My husband ordered all your books already, and we're waiting to get them. And so everybody's texting here. Very, very impressive. Great, impressed, so exciting. And well, looking forward for everybody to be to start trying the product and sharing the product. Buy another one. I bought the book today. Okay, good. Okay, good.
My absolute pleasure. I'll be happy to join you again at some point in time. This is great fun.
Thank you.
And you are a wonderful host. Thank you very much.